We're in the shop today, and the boss was nice enough to let me bring in the Land Cruiser to do some work on company time and on company space, which is fantastic. He's a really nice guy. Anyways, we are trying to put together a quick project. I bought this HEI distributor quite a while back because I was tired of messing with points, and I think moisture is being a problem with the distributor on this rig. I've run into it before, like even just basic kind of river crossings and stuff like that, where just little splashes seems like it really interferes with it. I think there's a few things at play, but I figured I'd start with this since everybody says stop messing with points, do the HEI. If you're of a different opinion, feel free to drop it down in the comments. I've never done it, so I just figured I'd give it a try and see what kind of benefits I get out of it, and we'll figure it out from there. So I'm happy I've got Steve here again. He's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this stuff and is helping out quite a bit. Right now we're just trying to figure out marks on the crank pulley to get a baseline for our timing, so that we've got that set, so that if we happen to stab in this HEI in a different spot, then we'll know right away and can kind of fine-tune our timing once we get it all put together. So we're just kind of getting all of our ducks in a row, and then we're going to dig in and start making it happen.
We should be able to get it like really flipping close. Yeah. That's what I'm hoping for anyways. So that's kicking out at like 60 degrees.
Gotcha.
So thinking about getting that one installed. I know it just calls for battery, but in the event this is something other than battery.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's I think that's what we need.
I would kind of think so too.
I think it just needs to be keyed with like, yeah, key.
Right. Oh, come on. Niner?
Oh, I actually replaced that, so it might be standard. I was just thinking, we gotta have all the fun on Sami. So.
You got a little stand next to stand on?
Yeah, I might. That's a good call.
Right here. I got you.
I think there's.
I definitely need one.
So yeah, that's that kind.
Yep. And then the one that's on the block itself, that'll have to come all the way off.
Okay.
And then that shaft should be able to come in.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, it's just right here. Ta-da!
Yeah. So if you compare them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna stick up quite a bit. That makes more sense.
So my thought process is keep all this junk away from your motor, and then just drop it in as a test fit to see if we are going to clear everything and if we can just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And then later on we'll worry about clocking it and everything like that.
Yep.
And then before you get too committed, so that's going to be our number one. You're going to lift it off and try and see where our cap, or the rotor is lined up at.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Now, when I spend $100 on my heat gun, I use my heat gun every chance I can.
Okay, so we ran into a quick problem. We need to go get some new spark plug cables. The cap on this has a different boot style and clip style. So we're gonna run to the parts store real quick, see if we can get that, so that we could probably make these work, but while we're doing it, might as well do it right. So we're gonna run to the parts store, see if we can get a set of those. And then I think we should be pretty close. We've got our hot hooked up, and we think we've got it stabbed in where it needs to be. We're probably gonna have to adjust the housing a little bit, clock it a little bit to get it to where it's pointed where we need close for timing. Then we could throw a light on it and see what happens. So we're gonna run there and then we'll be back. Okay, we just used up 2 of our 3 parts runs, but we think we've got some cables that are gonna work. We ended up talking to a guy there that we went through a couple of different options. We ended up with some Ford cables He was concerned about it because he said we'd lose even more horsepower than we had right now, but I think we're going to be okay because I think these are a better cable than what was on it. And it's got a 45 on this end. We just tested it on a spark plug, fits good. We took the cap, tested it on that, fits good. So we pulled out the 6 shortest cables. We'll hang on to the other 2 as spares and start plugging everything in and see if we can make this thing fire off. We should like have this where we can kind of see what we're doing almost. I don't know where that would be.
Roll it 30 times and taking this cap off.
Stick it up there high. Yeah. Bring the thunder! Right?
Where's your Lone Wolf 9000?
That's right. Okay, you want me to crank or just...
Yeah.
Okay. You all clear?
Yep.
And we're good.
Okay. Everything we can.
Yeah.
So yeah, that means that the distributor shaft is not sitting down too far enough. Yeah. Right. Oh, hold on. I didn't make our last electrical connection.
Okay.
That's me all day long. The taper on the gears pushes it up and out. So like you can see I'm leaning on it to hold it down.
Yeah.
So, let's hook up that timing right. I mean, I agree, it sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds like it's happy. I mean, it's still got that hiccup right at the beginning. But I think that's just because it's not warmed up and like I said, could be carburetor. So I'm going to kick this fan on again so we don't poison ourselves.
505, we're going for Rick. We're going for a test there.
Let it air out again. Alright, so we've run into some more hiccups than I thought I was going to with the system. When I looked at it, there's plenty of guys that said, oh yeah, bolted right in, no problem, same application. Not too many people have a 55, but they've got a 40, and a lot of that setup's the same, motor's the same. So we're a little surprised that we're running into the hiccups that we have, but we took it for a test drive. Everything seemed good, but our timing mark wasn't coming up to where we felt like it should be. And right now we're getting hung up on one of the what are we gonna call that? Not mounts, one of the anchors.
Cap.
Yeah, one of the anchors for the cap is hanging it up so that we can't adjust the body the way we want to.
You can actually see the oil.
Yeah. So we think we're just going to pull one of those, get it out of the way, and see if we get more adjustment out of it. It feels good. Running it around, driving it, it just feels good. So we're doing it more out of curiosity than anything, to see if we can get more adjustment, see if we can get that mark up where we feel like it should be, just to see how that goes. So we're going to play with that for a minute and see what we get out of that. Well, our trick cutting off the tab didn't work. It didn't give us any more adjustment, which was unfortunate. So we left it where it's at. Feels like it's running good. I don't have any complaints with this so far, so our plan is just to run it for a while. Just gonna run it, see how it feels, see how it performs, see if we come into any problems or anything like that. I think some of the mist that I'm feeling has to do with the carburetor. not related to the distributor or to ignition. So that's the plan. I'm gonna run it a little bit. I'm a little bit late for dinner, so I'm just hustling home. Gonna grab dinner, and tomorrow is balloons and tunes, so we're gonna see hot air balloons going up. Should be a pretty cool day. We're gonna hope they go up. They were supposed to go up this morning. There's too much wind and they didn't, so we're gonna hope they go up tomorrow and enjoy that. So I'm gonna call it a night, and we'll check in with you later. That was pretty cool, huh? I love every year balloons and tunes when the balloons get to go up. My plan this year was I was actually going to try and go up on the mountain again like I have in past years, but I was going to try and camp and spend the night because I thought it'd be cool to get some night lapse photos, time lapse of them airing up, you know, a bunch of that stuff. But then we got all that snow, which I'm sure you can see around. And I haven't shown you that road all the way through to get up there, but it's a technical road as is, and there was no way I was going to attempt that with snow on it, because that would have been that would have been super sketchy to try and do it with snow. So I didn't end up on top this year, but we had a good view from where we were, and a lot of fun to watch them inflate, go up. It's really cool to see where they land down in people's fields and yards and stuff like that. What a fun event. So just great. I really enjoyed that this morning. The other cool thing is the Land Cruiser seems to be running like a top. Fired up good this morning. It was a cold start. It's always got a slow crank when it's cold. I think it's just a big big motor, lots of oil, and so when it's cold it's just hard to turn over. But fired up good, idled good, it's been running strong. Yeah, it's running good since we dropped that distributor in, so I think we did a good job. It seems like it's pretty happy. I did notice, however, though, that I don't have any marker lights anymore. On my way home last night, I just pulled them to marker lights. It wasn't quite dark. I don't have any, so I'm not sure what that's about. We shouldn't have done anything with that wiring, but I'm going to do some troubleshooting here real quick, see if I can figure out what's going on there. Probably just a fuse, something simple, but I'm going to dive in here real quick and see what I can find out on that. Okay, I think I've got this narrowed down to the actual headlight switch, which is quite a coincidence that would suddenly go out the same time that we're working on this other stuff. I mean, it is a very old rig, so I'm not surprised that it would go out. Just seems like quite a coincidence. But let me take you down this rabbit hole that I went. Get this light turned on here. So I got looking at fuses. Tested the fuses, all those were okay. I noticed though that there's this wire hanging down that when I wiggled it, the headlights would go out. The headlights were working, but they would go in and out. So I pulled the fuse block and found we had kind of a short back here. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that where it got hot. I probably just need to replace this, but that got hot, kind of shorted on this cable, this cord here at some point. And then there's a weird connection here. So I cut that out, put in a better connection, put a better connection there, still no lights. So then I pulled the switch out of the dash and started testing with it. So when I test it, I've got a hot, I think it's on that one actually. I've got a hot on that comes in to the switch. And so now, get my test light here, and I did all this with a test light. I know this isn't the right way to do it, but it's the way I did it. So that's hot, right? And with the headlight switch on, that tab behind it is coming on, but none of these other tabs are. And so this switch should be taking the hot in and then switching between the different outlets, telling it to turn on marker lights, dash lights, all that stuff. None of these are coming on though when I do that. So that was kind of my first indication that, yeah, the switch is bad. The other thing that I did, which again, I do not suggest that you do it this way at home. There's better ways to do this, but this is how I'm doing it. I took this little blade, which was the weird connection up there, and I started sticking this in these to see if I could get, which one was it here? To see what if I was getting line through, and all of a sudden, if you look down there, I've got marker lights. You can see there and there, marker lights, and then there's another one of those. Oh, that's bright. There's another one of those that kick the dash lights on. So basically what that did is allowed me to eliminate that it's down to the switch, because we've got a hot coming in and a hot going out to the headlights, but none of those others are getting a hot as we cycle through that switch. So there's something in there, connectors or contacts or something like that that have gotten dirty. Something within that switch is the issue. There again, seems like quite a coincidence that that happened around the same time that we were working on the distributor. I don't know for sure that it was like within the last couple of days, but it definitely was pretty recent, because I know they have been working. So I'm going to pursue that a little bit, see if I can figure out something with it on why that might be happening, and I'll let you know what I find out. Okay, I got that cap pulled off. Here's what I've come up with on the switch. We've got these contacts that are kind of loose, and basically there's a plunger in there. I don't know if you can see that. So as you pull the light switch out, that plunger slides along, hits these contacts from underneath, and then should make the connection through. So like I said, two things. A couple of these are kind of loose. I think I could probably bend this off, this circuit off, and do some cleanup underneath, some stuff like that. There's also this little tiny, look at that cute little guy, little tiny bulb that goes in the back of this that lights up that little guy there so that the knob lights up, which would be kind of cool to have too. We checked continuity on that. That's burned out. We checked it the right way. I've got Steve here again that's helping me, and he knows this stuff. He's not as redneck as I am with a test light. Anyway, so I've got my wife at home. I called her up, sent her some pictures of what I'm looking for. She's going to run out to the parts rigs and see if we can find something that's going to work, because that'd be the easiest if we could just swap out that for one of those. If that doesn't work, then we'll probably kind of work on tearing this apart, see if we can clean it up, and then I might hop online, see if I can find a used one, or maybe they've got OEM replacements. I don't know. So I'm waiting to hear back from her. Meanwhile, we're working on the radiator. The expansion tank has not existed, and I thought that it was just broken off completely and gone forever. But as we were talking about how to fuse on some copper wire or copper tubing, Steve reached down and found this, which has the actual bung. Are we going to call that a bung?
Yeah.
That fits in there, that broke off at some point. So that was a good find. So we're going to clean that up and see if we can't sweat that on, get a good solder on there to seal that up. And then we've got an actual expansion tank that we're going to see if we can't fit somewhere and get that set up working. So that's what we're working on in the meantime. And yeah, that's about it. So we're going to keep fiddling with that, see what my wife can find on the switch, and I'll let you know what we come up with.
Oh, it's a brand new one.
It is.
You want to just top it off with water?
I don't care. So we've got this, got the bung on there, I think is what we're going to call it. On there good, feels solid. So that was great to fill. We think we've got a good seal all the way around, but we just kind of wanted to fire it up and let it run, let it warm up. Just watch that and see if it releases pressure and comes out, or what we end up with. Meanwhile, I got this pulled apart, and we struck out on parts, used parts, and I got online and looked, wasn't finding anything real quick. These are the contacts. It's not like super dirty, but I am noticing that this one here is pretty dirty, and they're also kind of rubbed nearly flush. There's kind of like a rib on the plastic, rubbed nearly flush on those too. So I'm probably going to play with that a little bit. I highly doubt we've got a bulb like this around. Probably check with this parts store and just see. But I'm going to play with that a little bit, see if I can get all that cleaned up and put back together, and see if we get some better success. In fact, I was just looking at these. Those are flattened off too, and that could be part of the issue too. Anyways, we're still rolling with it. So tell me again. So we've walked through, we've changed the hose, we've got a better seal here.
Yep. We were leaking before where the hose met the fitting that we soldered on to the radiator neck. And then while we were running it, you can see how wet it was.
Yeah.
That was because of that leak. But we resolved that, and just to check for other leaks, elevate the reservoir to create pressure in the system, just to make sure we're not leaking from here or any of the work we did.
Yeah.
And it's just the radiator cap at this point.
Okay.
So
we need a new radiator cap. We need to figure out where we're going to put the reservoir at. Yeah, we're thinking maybe just hang it from the battery mount here. It's close enough to the radiator. Should be fairly clean. Should clear everything if we did that. So we're thinking about that. So that's solved, and I also solved my problem too, which I don't know. It was a bad fuse. I checked the fuses. That was one of the first things I did, anticipating that was the problem. And I'm telling you, I hit both sides of all the fuses. They were all acting like they should. Anyways, it was a bad fuse. And the reason why I figured that out is because I figured out that this needed two hots coming in. It needed one for each side in order to jump and give us all the lights that we needed. And so I got back and started looking at the wires coming out of the fuse block, trying to figure out why we didn't have that second hot, and sure enough, bad fuse. I put a new fuse in, and now we've got that second hot coming in, and so that's solved too. That was just a longer process to get there than it should have been. So yeah, So that's where we're at. We probably call the parts store, see if they've got a radiator cap, see if they've got that little guy, that little bulb. I'll put the switch back together, put the dash back together, figure out where to locate that. I think we've got lunch on order too, though. I think we've got a couple of big reds coming from the local burger shop. So we'll check back in once we figure all that out. Okay, we just got back from test drive, and everything seems happy. We couldn't get it up to temperature. It's just running cool, which I think we were talking about it. I think that's a success in itself, that it's just running cool. We even stuck a piece of cardboard in the radiator to try and block off some airflow to see if that could bring it up, but it's just running good. Seems like it's happy, so we're gonna call that a success for now. I'm gonna try and see if I can find that little bulb. I got on real quick and I couldn't find anything that looked quite right, so I'm gonna have to do a little more research, but I got all that put back together. I think I should be able to get up behind there and replace that bulb without having to pull the switch if I need to, so we'll play with that a little bit. But we decided the next thing that needs to happen is the clutch. That slave cylinder is terrible. It's like unsafe terrible. So that's the next thing that needs to happen. I've actually got it sitting at home on the shelf, so I'll probably play with that and see if I can't get that figured out. And then we want to do front end stuff on it too, make it steer better, because it's got a lot of slop in the steering, and so there's still plenty to do. But we were very successful in the last few days, the projects that we've done on Sami and on the Cruiser, and so that's been absolutely awesome. But these guys are headed back tomorrow.
Yep, fly back tomorrow.
Headed back to Minnesota tomorrow, unfortunately, so I'm going to be helpless without them, but it's been great having them here and getting these projects done. It's just been an absolute blast to have the time to work on it and work through it. So yeah, that's about it. We've got Balloon Glow tonight. I'll probably show you a little bit of that, which is always pretty cool. And then I think the festivities are pretty well over. Well, they're doing the lantern launch tonight too. It was too windy yesterday.
In about an hour and a half.
Yeah, so I think I've got at 5:30. I've got to report in with search and rescue. We're gonna hold one of the intersections, and but I'll bring you along, see if we can't get some of that footage too, because that's usually pretty cool. Well, I've got some bad news. We had a failure on both of those. We discovered after we turned the camera off. The expansion tank was dripping a little bit. We think it's where the molded plastic, the seam runs right up the bung that you put the hose on. So we think that's where it was leaking. We worked on that. I think we've got that taken care of. We'll see. The other thing is the distributor is actually pushing oil up the shaft, and it's coming out of the distributor. And we're not sure exactly why, but what we think is happening is because it wasn't a good fit. The drain on that shaft just isn't draining, and so the pressure is allowing it to push all the way up through. So we've got an oil leak caused by that distributor. So that was kind of the final confirmation that distributor just is not a good fit for the Land Cruiser, even though the part number said it was, the part said it was, the order said it was, even reviews said it was, that it would fit. It's just not working. So really frustrating on that one, but what can we do at this point? So I'm going to do a little research, see if I can find the right fit, see if I can't figure that out. I've looked at a few others and they look like exact duplicates. I don't know, but gonna do a little research on that, see what I can figure out. Probably gonna end up replacing that with something different. So that's where we're at. Headlights still work though. Headlights, marker lights, all that stuff. And I think the big win was that we got that that little bung welded or soldered into the radiator. That's solid and not leaking and feeling good. So definitely some wins today, but definitely some loose ends also that we need to figure out. But I've got to get ready. I've got to be over for search and rescue to do traffic duty tonight. So I'm going to head on over there and get set up. I'm realizing that even though I had this charging, the batteries were not charging up. I'm not sure what's happening there. So I'm a little concerned I'm not going to get much footage for tonight, but I'll do my best, I promise. So we'll catch you then.